Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and I'm super excited today to jump into the eclipse happening on September 21st, 2025. This is a Virgo solar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when it's a new moon happening close enough to the nodes to be considered an eclipse. And the closer to the nodes it is, the more fuller of an eclipse it is. But you can see this one is about like 11 degrees away from the node, so it's a partial solar eclipse. So this is an interesting one because we already had a Virgo new moon about a month ago. So what we're experiencing is a kind of second chapter to that initial first chapter with that first Virgo new moon. What's particularly interesting about that occurrence is that it's happening, or the first new moon in Virgo happened at 0 Virgo, and this is happening at 29 Virgo. Why is that substantial? Well, 0 is the start of the sign, and 29 is the end of the sign in terms of degrees. So we're having this kind of, again, almost like trial and error happening, where we first start off with some type of new venture, an idea, something that we're dealing with, and then it reaches some type of peak experience, or we get more pressure or more clues, or something else happens to further that initial start that happened a month ago. So it can be helpful to think back what was really prominent for me, what was going on for me a month ago. Something else about a new moon like this one, or this eclipse at 29 degrees, that is called an anaretic degree in astrology, which is considered a degree of crisis. So there can be a crisis around the energy of Virgo. So 29 degrees of Virgo can show crisis around health, crisis around self-esteem issues, crisis around being overly critical of yourself or others, being judgmental of yourself or others, having a servant mindset, and maybe the trouble around that, like over giving to people, overworking yourself, not resting enough, things of that nature. There can be a lot of emphasis or crisis around needing to have order, needing to have things focused, to have a plan, to have things clean and organized. So there is a lot of different ways that this can manifest. But in general, the Virgo energy likes to control, and it likes to have a semblance of, like I said, order. And that can be difficult because life is chaotic and life is full of things we can't control. So we could see some of the shadow sides of this come out, where we get really stressed or anxious, especially around things that we don't have a lot of say over, or things that just require some level of divine faith and trust. So I think we could see, again, that crisis energy activating a feeling of urgency, a feeling of overwhelm, or just a deep mistrust and stress around current life conditions. And as a Virgo eclipse, we want to look at Mercury to further define experiences of this eclipse. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo as a planet, and so that's why it's important to look there. So Mercury at this time is in Libra, which you can see 5 degrees Libra. It's conjunct the moon. So Libra tends to focus on relationships, creating balance, creating a sense of fairness and equality, and a sense of justice. So there can be themes wrapped up around that in our life. If we have become really chaotic and disorganized, it could be about bringing life back into balance. If our relationships have been disrupted recently, it could be around like what needs to be fixed in order to come back to balance or to harmony with somebody. If you have had any kind of imbalances or injustices in your life, it could be about doing what it takes to have justice served, or to have things feel more fair. So overall, there are themes that this crisis energy of Virgo are ultimately kind of pushing us towards some semblance of balance and harmony. So what's also really interesting about this eclipse is that it is the base of a kite pattern. if you know what kites look like, I'm sure you can visually see the kite in this chart. We can see that a kite is comprised of a grand trine and then a kind of smaller version of this with two sextiles. So what's interesting about a kite is that it doesn't just have these positive aspects, because trines and sextiles are positive aspects that create blessings and opportunities for us, roughly. There's that going on, but there's also an opposition with the sun and moon and then Saturn and Neptune. That's a big deal because the opposition creates tension or friction in an already kind of loose, easygoing dynamic between the other planets. So what does that do? It creates enough kind of friction oftentimes to get us to realize that there needs to be some type of change or evolvement. Kites have this kind of fated element to them, and it can help us harness the gifts that we are being given at this time. And that doesn't always mean that gifts are easy. Sometimes gifts are learned through difficult circumstances, but I'll leave that at that. So this kite is what I'm going to break down now. When we have a grand trine, this would have been a grand air trine if the moon was at 0 Libra. Instead, it's in Virgo, which is an earth sign, but Pluto, which it's trining, is in Aquarius, which is an air sign, and then it's also trining Uranus in Gemini, which is another air sign. So typically when you see a grand trine, it's 3 of the same elements. So we're going to have an interesting mix of air and earth. And air is one of the elements that has the ability to move things really quickly. If you think about air, it is, speedy and unencumbered. It doesn't have density to it, right? So what we can imagine now is that the events happening during this eclipse are going to have a very fast quality and also a destined quality, because this is a kite and it's an eclipse, and they have kind of fated elements, destined elements often occur during kites and eclipses. And they're going to occur really fast. Not only because Pluto and Uranus are in air signs, but because Uranus itself is a planet of kind of shock with how quickly things develop. And so we can imagine that the eclipse trining Uranus is going to create that. So many of us could have some kind of spark of an idea or a quick change or an insight or some type of development in our lives. Air signs, and especially Mercury in Libra, are concerned with relationships. So a lot of those changes in dynamics, those quick, communications or insights or whatever, are going to likely affect our relationships or involve other people somehow. Not for everybody, but I think a lot of people will be dealing with others, and the things that are shifting right now are impacting their dynamic with other people. So this could look like, needing to kind of like take some type of leap of faith to a new beginning in relationships. This could also look like a leap of faith and a new beginning in any kind of venture that feels like a soulmate venture or a soulmate desire. That doesn't literally mean people always. It could, but it could also mean like your ideal career, your ideal place to live, your ideal circumstances for something going on in your life. So being willing to kind of jump in and make changes to align with that ideal is encouraged at this time. Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini are really dynamic, and they are very willing to kind of throw off the old and adapt and transform or embrace innovation, embrace evolution, embrace change. And both of these planets understand the power of resistance and going against the status quo, even if that status quo is simply a precedent that you set rather than like a societal one, but it could be both. So breaking from the pattern and choosing some type of new dynamic, a new situation at the drop of a hat. That's the energy of this eclipse. So this could look like deciding to move on from a breakup or from unrequited love or imbalanced situations in relationships. Um, moving towards a feeling of fairness and equality, wanting to cultivate relationships that help you feel respected or recognized. And this doesn't just have to be relationships, this could be other situations in your life where those things are missing. So there could be some kind of radical or quick developments in those areas. The goal of a Virgo eclipse in many ways is to bring order to chaos. So if there's a lot of chaos in our relationships, in our mind, in our lives, in how many tasks we have going on, Virgo really wants to bring order to that chaos. And as a Mercury ruled sign, it wants us to use communication, especially with this trine to Uranus and Gemini. It wants us to use communication to quickly resolve conflicts or to free ourselves from kind of like a cyclical pattern that we could be stuck in with people. It wants us to be able to use our mind to find solutions to missed opportunities or problems in our lives, because air signs are about the intellect, and help us get more focused and clear on where we're trying to go. And with Virgo being an earth sign, there is a need to have some type of plan or to actually put things into motion rather than just having clarity and thinking about it, but actually taking a step forward to make a move in the real world where you will see some kind of response to what you're doing. So, okay, I feel like I'm talking in loose things. Like, okay, anyway, I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to talk about the tension, and I'm just looking at my notes. I want to talk about the tension that comes as a result of this eclipse being opposite Saturn and Neptune. I've talked about this conjunction a lot, and it is going to come up again in February 2026, and I'll probably do a more detailed reading on it then when these planets come exact together. But they've been hanging out for a while together all summer long, and they're continuing really throughout the year. So this eclipse is kind of playing along that existing story of Saturn and Neptune that I've been discussing. And one of the prime things that I've been talking about with Saturn Neptune conjunct is a feeling of like losing hope or faith. There can also be a sense of redemption. That word just came to me really strongly. So, if things have been lost to the sands of time, old dreams or, difficult patterns in relationships or things that you never thought you would get over or things that you never thought you would resolve or pick up again or lean into. I don't know, I could see a redemption happening there with Saturn and Neptune coming together. But there's often also a feeling of like losing hope and faith around existing structures in our lives. Feeling disillusioned, feeling despair, feeling powerlessness, a fear of the unknown, a loss of control, feeling overwhelmed, having self-doubt, having a lack of trust in ourselves or the universe, lacking inspiration. Those are really common feelings of Saturn and Pisces especially, but also Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries. And so it can create this emotional instability because we might have certain things in our life that disappoint us. Or we might feel like we can't live up to certain expectations that we had for our life. Or we might realize that the reality of something is more nuanced and more challenging than we anticipated. Those are really common Saturn-Neptune experiences. And so we can have this emotional instability because we're experiencing some type of disappointment or loss or breakup or some other kind of emotionally destabilizing event in our lives. Or this could even just be an internal conversation that creates that uncertainty in the self and that destabilizes your emotions. In a lot of ways, Saturn-Neptune coming together is like losing one's innocence, losing the ideal or the dream, because as you bring it into the real world, it doesn't quite fit with the perfection in your head. And also there can be some resurfacing of unresolved childhood trauma or past issues, because Saturn is very strongly associated with things that have already transpired. So These are the things that could come up right now that may feel particularly challenging. And it's a part of this eclipse so that it comes up into our attention and is overcome, because there's an interesting juxtaposition with an opposition here of Virgo wanting to have a lot of order and control and chaos, order over the chaos, and having a plan and feeling like you are moving productively towards something and fixing something, refining something, perfecting something. That's Virgo. But then the Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces and Aries is a lot about a loss of control, not having things live up to the perfection that you're striving for, things like, not being as easy or as controllable as we would like. And it requires a lot of faith and trust in the unknown. And so it is kind of like pulling us in two directions with that. Are we going to go into full despair of feeling like we don't have control over anything and we can't make something happen for ourselves? Or are we going to go into like ultra fix-it mode? I have to do everything, change everything, perfect everything myself, and I can't rely on the universe. And we need some kind of balance in between where both sides are giving. So we need to realize where we have control and where we don't. We need to realize where we can strive for more perfection or where we need to accept things for how they are. And just kind of figuring out that right amount of kind of persistence or human will and force versus flowing with what the universe has in store, because that's all that can be done. So balancing those is going to be key at this eclipse. And eclipses take 6 months to unfold. So we might find that it takes us 6 months to really get this down in general. And when we're able to balance these two sides and activate the gifts of the Grand Trine, it will help us focus on the kind of uncertain faded elements of this kite and help them come into being or manifestation. So what are those things that we can focus on right now? So I listed out a number of things in my notes. So one of them is using our innate gifts, harnessing our willpower and our resourcefulness, and applying our skill and our logic and our concentration on an important goal. So this is all very kind of Virgo / grand air trine type of energy here, where we are realizing what we are skilled at and we are putting it into practice and focusing on that thing and using logic to develop that thing. For some of us, we might be traveling because air is often about movement and travel. But when I was pulling cards on this, I got the Six of Swords, and that's a card of travel, but it's also a card of moving from choppy waters and difficult times to smoother waters. So a lot of us are going to be going through a cycle of overcoming a particular hardship that has maybe been haunting us for some time. And this could allow us to create some relief and stability in our lives after great change. So the overall goal of an earth sign where this eclipse is to create that stability, is to have financial prosperity, to have maybe roots or a family, or have really solid relationships, or have a really solid long-term goal to move towards. But there's this sense of wanting to create some kind of stability. And again, Saturn in conjunct Neptune opposite this eclipse shows where sometimes there isn't the potential to root down, or things that stable foundation that we thought would be there dissolves, or our idea of stability changes. So we are going to create stability, but there is also a challenge against that in certain ways at the same time. We are meant to be taking a chance on ourselves and following certain dreams that we have and building self-confidence through action. That's Virgo is, finding a sense of purpose and worthiness and confidence through competency, through follow through, and consistency and dedication towards something, as well as adaptability to find the best solutions to problems as they arise. And then I think we are also meant to be just enjoying ourselves in general, with Mercury being in Libra, enjoying relationships, enjoying a sense of beauty, enjoying luxury, things like that. That is kind of the ultimate highest elevation of this kite and what it's trying to get us to move towards. But we are going to encounter certain challenges because we do have some debilitated planets going on here, that is going to stir the pot in relationships in particular. We have Venus in Virgo, which is the sign of its fall, which means that this is a planet in a sign it's uncomfortable in. It's also squaring Uranus, which is a destabilizing planet and a hard aspect. So, and it's quincunxing Pluto. So what I see for this is some difficulty opening up in relationships. With that quincunx to Pluto, some past pain and hurt can unconsciously impact our day-to-day relationships and how much we feel safe versus guarded. And that quincunx to Pluto can also indicate that potentially at this eclipse, hidden elements of relationships, especially shadow elements of relationships, can come to light. And with that square to Uranus, it might be a shocking revelation, like realizing that somebody was lying to you or manipulating you or gossiping about you or judging you, like seeing negative sides of people in your life that you didn't see before is quite common with a placement like this. There can also be a feeling of being maybe stuck in some kind of karmic cycle or pattern and having difficulty really learning from that cycle. With Venus and Virgo, this is going to especially pertain to things involving relationships and money and self-worth and our appearance. And we might feel like we are repeating certain things that we've already dealt with and getting frustrated with ourselves as a result of that. And, you know, Venus square Uranus does involve some type of shock in relationships or some type of change in these areas. So I do think that we can get out of the cycle because of Uranus's influence. But I also think that what Uranus does is it first stirs the pot. So it's almost like we can have some type of shocking revelation or breakdown in relationships in some way that makes us realize that we are in a pattern and helps us then get out of it as a result of that realization. But it has to stir the pot first to make us see what needs changing. We might feel also like there is, again, just like a general upheaval in relationships, or potentially money at this time. And the ultimate goal of all of this, again, is to bring back a sense of stability in relationships and a sense of balance. So if things have felt really lopsided, or if they have felt really, again, chaotic, or if there has been things that you haven't been addressing in your relationships, it's like trying to air all this out to create more of a long-term like stability. So it might initially create chaos, but for the benefit of long-term stability. So it's like cutting out a toxic person in your life, or going through a breakup, or getting away from a bad job, or, you know, addressing, you know, the fact that you haven't had sex in your marriage in years. Like, I don't know, I'm just giving random examples, but those are things that it's going to all come to light at this time, because if we kept continuing down that path, it would lead to more and more chaos. And so it's like we have to have some level of stirring the pot and addressing things now and facing things now, or having upheaval in our dynamics to force us to look at things so that in the long term they can become stable. And I think that involves some level of patience and perseverance as well for the relationships that you think deserve to stick around. So that's something that I think we're going to be developing over time. Another concern for me is Mars, which is at 29 Libra, and this Mars is in detriment. It is squaring Pluto, it's opposing Chiron, and it's quincunxing Saturn, Neptune, and quincunxing Uranus, so it's at the apex of a yod. If you know astrology, you know that this Mars is kind of fucked. Like, it's really going through it right now. If you have any planets around 29 degrees of Libra or like 0 Aries, I definitely think you're going to be feeling, sorry, I meant 0 Cancer. So 29 Libra, wait, sorry, Scorpio. I don't know what I'm saying. So my brain is like, I did not sleep. There was a lot of thunder last night. So 29 degrees of Libra or like 0 Scorpio, like around the beginning, late degrees of Libra, beginning degrees of Scorpio. I definitely can see us having, like, those who have planets there having issues, because this Mars really blows chunks. And if you have planets there, you're going to get the brunt of that, unfortunately. So what does this mean? So Mars in Libra, Mars is a planet of anger and frustration and this and that. And in Libra, it is really concerned about people's feelings and relationships, and it will tend to suppress one's anger, hold in resentment. The anxiety will build, frustration will build, but it doesn't have an outlet for it to go because Mars in Libra feels unsafe in expressing those things. So one of the things that will come up are negative consequences as a result of that, and potential explosions with this square to Pluto, or potential revelations of that energy that has been building tension and pressure within you. So having like a mental breakdown, having a panic attack, having anxiety, having a fight come up, or something come up at work, or getting into an accident, or having something scary happen. But it all is a result of pressure that's been building internally as a result of unresolved feelings that you've never addressed, that you've never spoken aloud, that you've never let out of you. So if you don't address it head on, it will create some type of situation to force your hand. Mars in Libra can also represent maybe the changes, like a de-evolution of something. So going from, Mars, which is action, excitement, desire, intrigue, movement in a direction, having that devolve into second guessing yourself, slowing down, being uncertain about taking action on something, feeling like you lack direction where you were once passionate and focused. Now you're not so sure. Maybe you feel like you're forcing things. Maybe you feel like you can't use your willpower properly because you're not motivated by something. Maybe you feel like you aren't good enough to accomplish something. Lacking confidence, lacking follow through, not giving something all you've got. That's a very Mars and Libra experience where we could have started off, again, very excited about something, all gung-ho, all green lights, and then we go to the place of like really kind of kicking the can down the road. I don't know. Do I want to do this? I don't know. So that is something else that we could be facing now as well. This kind of realization that our confidence and willpower and sense of desire is really being governed by our shadow self with that square to Pluto, and we might not realize that our fears are directly influencing this change in our desire. Like, do you actually not want that thing, or are you just scared that if you pursue it, X, Y, and Z will happen? Or are you just letting self-doubt and uncertainty creep into your mind and make you feel like you shouldn't take action? Those are questions that we should ask ourselves now. And if we aren't taking action, it can lead to missed opportunities. So things like a lack of money, lack of planning, lack of getting something done or accomplished, lack of getting something off the ground, or feeling ungrounded. Those are really common feelings with a debilitated Mars, because Mars is our action planet. So when it's really troubled with this opposition with Chiron and square with Pluto, everything that I mentioned, it can feel like it's spinning its wheels a lot. And so there's a lot of pressure that this Mars is under, feeling like it's not being productive, feeling like it's not moving forward, feeling like it's not confident enough, feeling like opportunities are being missed, like it's developing greater insecurity or even financial instability, but as a result of not taking action on certain things. So yeah, not everyone's going to feel this way, but those who have late degree Libra placements or early Scorpio placements are very likely to feel a lot of these things. Alternatively, or additionally, they may experience a feeling of burnout, having too much on their plate, spinning your wheels by just having a lot on your shoulders and feeling like you have to do everything yourself. Like there's a lot of maybe obligations or burdens or serious things to do, and it's kind of stripping life of its spontaneity or its fun or its pleasure. And so there can feel also like this sense of a weightiness and responsibility. And I think that has a lot to do with Mars being in this quincunx to Saturn. And that can create a lot of restlessness with this Mars quincunx Uranus, where we just want to be free. We want to be free, but we also have this uncertainty around ourselves. And so we're not really taking the steps in order to make ourselves free of this, or to change something in a way that will create more spontaneity and fun. So yeah, I almost feel like it's not really, not realizing that you have the power to make something better in your life, and instead feeling a little bit maybe trapped or uncertain, and that leading to not making progress with something that could make you feel better. That is a debilitated Mars. Is like, you could take steps to make your life more what you want it to be, but there's something in you with this Mars in Libra that is not certain or is lacking confidence, and because of that, you're not doing the things that you need to do to feel better. But the ultimate purpose of this is to kind of experience this duality at this eclipse. I think we're going to experience quite a bit of a balance of dark and light type of experiences, and ultimately it's trying to shed light on our inner nature, our inner world, our inner truth, to understand what we need to continue to evolve. And the best way to work with this Mars energy is going to be creating some kind of plan. But the plan needs to be focused, in this quincunx with Neptune as well. There needs to be an integration of a higher spiritual purpose or a bigger picture. So I think that ultimately this plan needs to look like this. You can have a step-by-step plan, which is very Virgoan, where you're looking at all the details. But with Neptune involved in this eclipse, I do think you also need to have a soul purpose behind it, a spiritual mission, a higher mission, something that involves the collective, something that involves your whole life when you're looking at it through the picture or lens of your whole entire life. I don't know. We need to have some type of plan that isn't just super in the mundane world, but is also zooming out and seeing that my soul came here to do this, so I'm going to take steps for that right now. And staying connected to that kind of intrinsic sense of purpose and helping the collective, or being a part of something, being a part of a oneness, contributing to some type of a selflessness, I guess, contributing to something greater than yourself. So that is something that's really important, and that can help mobilize this Mars, because it might feel uncertain, but Mars in Libra is really motivated by relationships and by other people. And if we can see how the things that we want to do can help a broader person, or can help our future kids, or can help inspire people in our lives, or make some kind of larger impact, that Mars in Libra is going to feel like it can actually move forward when it has a focus on something outside of itself. Another thing that I think is going to be important is to build stability, inner emotional stability, financial stability, stability in our routine, stability in our plan, and our consistency with action. And look at the things that take away from that stability. So this could be things like lying to yourself. Especially with that Mars square to Pluto, self-sabotage is quite common with a placement like Mars square Pluto, where you can, again, kind of like Pluto, you can kind of lie to yourself about certain things and say like, that doesn't matter, or this one decision doesn't make a difference, or, that doesn't really bother me. And it does, but ignoring it or pushing it away or lying to yourself about it can create like further self-sabotage. So, if you have addictions, or if you're in a toxic dynamic, or if you are belittling yourself, like you could not even realize that those things are going on. And so I think that can create a lot of instability in our lives. And so that's something that we need to focus on. And part of that is going to be building a backbone, building boundaries that protect our desires, that protect our needs from parts of ourselves that are toxic, but also other people and how they pull on our energy. And we need to protect what is most essential to us. And having that greater soul purpose can help us really instill these boundaries that sometimes Libra can struggle with. The last thing I'll mention with this eclipse is that we have Jupiter making a square to Chiron. Jupiter in Cancer is squaring Chiron in Aries. And I do think that there are a number of things that this can talk about. I think that this placement is asking us to do healing, to do some healing in our lives, to unlearn certain emotional patterns that we are likely stuck in relationships. I shouldn't say stuck, but involved in. I think also, Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter in Capricorn might have this a bit more, but there is some focus here on legacy and long-term growth and long-term potential for things. So focusing on like bigger picture or longer term things is going to be important. That also is related to Saturn. I think we need to realize and heal from the things that have disappointed us. This is again related to Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter in Cancer, but I think it's kind of letting go and moving on from the things that don't live up to our thoughts or how we have disappointed ourselves, even in our own lives. And then lastly, I definitely think Jupiter in Cancer is very, very creative. And I think that we are needing to express ourselves and express our emotions and express our creativity more deeply in order to form deeper connections with ourselves, more authenticity with ourselves, and also deeper connections with other people. So freedom of emotional and creative expression in our lives is really enhanced and being healed right now with Jupiter squaring Chiron. So I know that was super long and probably all over the place. I hope that it made sense or was helpful at any point. I hope it wasn't too abstract. Let me know if it was or if you got anything out of it in the comments down below. And then let's go ahead and jump into what this is going to look like for all of our sun and rising signs. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse is happening in your 6th house. And sorry, I thought I heard something. And it's opposite Saturn and Neptune. It's actually taking part of kite formation. I'm not going to go over every aspect. It was a really long overview, but definitely check that out if you want. So I have 3 questions that I'm asking the tarot based off of this eclipse. Number 1, there's a grand trine, and I want to know what the blessing or opportunity is for you because this new moon is a part of a grand trine. My second question is what tension needs to be released because we've got Mars in Libra, and Mars is your planetary ruler, and there's a lot going on with Mars. It's very dysfunctional. It's squaring Pluto, opposing Chiron. It's a part of a yod. It's making quincunxes to both Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. So there's a lot of dysfunction here that is going to affect you personally. And then lastly, what do you need to focus on? Because we have this opposition with the Virgo new moon and Saturn and Neptune. And so we need to kind of know where to channel this energy because it could feel like we're being pulled in 2 different directions. And then an overarching theme. So question number 1, what is your blessing opportunity? I have the 4 of Cups. This is really interesting because typically when we think of a blessing opportunity, we think of something new coming into your life. And the 4 of Cups is a placement of, or is a card of not really knowing if you want the thing that's coming into your life. So there's a couple messages here. One of the messages for you guys is that this eclipse could bring a new opportunity that you are hesitant to pursue, that you are uncertain about. Maybe you don't feel qualified. Maybe you just don't know if you want it. You could also, there's so many things. And that makes a lot of sense with Mars being so debilitated. You might not be totally, like, you might not have all of your head kind of like screwed on straight like you normally do. Maybe you're not as like, maybe you're doing things that are different or you are uncertain about certain choices that you're making. But this Four of Cups can point to that kind of environment right now of not maybe feeling like yourself. And so a new opportunity could come in at that time. And then you might feel like, maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe this isn't the right time. And that's a potential here. The other thing is that the Four of Cups could speak to being like removing something from our lives. So recognizing that something isn't really working for us anymore. And that's a very Virgoan thing. And also that feels aligned with Mars squaring Pluto, that there's a purification that happens, a removal of the debris of what is unnecessary, what is inefficient. So there might be some of that going on too, where you're recognizing that if I want to feel better in my skin, in my life, then I need to probably remove something from it. And you'll know after some contemplation, you'll know what that is. So it's either that there is an opportunity or blessing coming to you that you are not 100% gung-ho about initially, or there's a need to kind of cleanse your life a little bit and remove the things that are just distractions, that are not adding to your overall well-being. Either way, there's a feeling of like, do I want this? There's a question of, do I want this? That is at the center of this. So for those of you who have a blessing coming in or an opportunity coming in that you're not 100% sure about, should you take it? We have the World card. I guess to me, this is not just like a yes or a no, but to me, this is saying something that if this going to help you. Oh, sorry, I just have so many competing ideas in my head right now. Okay, I'm going to go back. For some of you, this could indicate that there's a completion of a cycle. And so maybe that's part of this Four of Cups is trying to kind of, you know, go through all of the things that you're already committed to and see what has a natural conclusion and what will wrap itself up. The World card is also a card of like generally seeing the world, traveling, up leveling your life, or starting a new cycle. And so I do think that if there's a feeling of advancement that can come from a new opportunity and you're not sure if you want to take it, then I think that you should. But you'll know inside. You'll know deep down inside. You might not actively want it, but you'll know if it's good for you and will lead to personal evolution in a way that is going to up-level your life. Sometimes we got to do shit we don't want to do. And this is an eclipse in the 6th house, so there could be some changes in how that affects your day-to-day life and your routine and your work that you're committed to. It might, again, involve changing some of those things, also health-wise, like eliminating certain foods or, you know, not trying to take on too many tasks and getting more focus or having more of a plan, that type of thing. So part of your blessing might be the discrimination process of recognizing, do I want to do this or not? And if I don't, how do I eliminate this? How do I make my life simpler, more efficient? Okay, so the second question that I asked is related to Mars and Libra. This really fucked up Mars. What tension needs to be released? Because, you know, Mars is holding on to a lot of emotions. Yours is in the area of relationships, and there might be some tension involving people in your life right now. You might feel swayed by certain people and uncertain because of that, or you might be having certain ideas for your life, but you're not sure how people fit into that. You might have just conflict in relationships, anxiety about relationships, a lot of ways that people can impact you. So what tension needs to be released? I have the Queen of Swords, which is a card that says perspective, but this is a card of boundaries and kind of saying it like it is. So this Mars and Libra energy might be a little bit like, might want to tiptoe around the truth in a relationship issue. And this Queen of Swords is saying that it needs to be addressed head on, that you need to communicate really clearly, and that you need to be looking at kind of the facts. And this is where Libra can be helpful because it's an air sign. And it's really good at the impartial judgment of an entire situation or a holistic experience. So this Queen of Swords can talk about really seeing the whole picture, gaining perspective and looking at things logically rather than emotionally, or allowing other people to manipulate your viewpoint on something. It's like a cold hard truth, basically. So, and communicating that truth in your relationships, if there is some kind of conflict or some kind of tension that needs to be released, being honest with yourself about something and communicating that to somebody else. And there is a potential need to set a boundary with somebody. Sorry, my dog, I don't know where she is. Okay. The last question is, what should you focus on? Because there's this Virgo Pisces opposition pulling us in two different directions. And I got the High Priestess. So to me, this indicates that Pisces is the less developed part of this opposition. Because normally in an opposition, one side outweighs the other in terms of what you favor. It's like having a more dominant hand. And it makes sense that you would favor Virgo because Pisces is in your 12th house. And Virgo is more accessible to you in your work house. The 12th house is the least visible house. It's more subconscious. It's less integrated into the psyche. And so there's a need to rely on that or focus on more on that. So what is that focus? The High Priestess speaks about your intuition. It speaks about going with the flow, trusting in the unseen, trusting in your gut instincts about people or situations or events you're involved in. So what needs to be focused on right now is really leaning into that intuition piece. And with the Otter card as being kind of the overarching theme of your message, this is a card about playfulness, about enjoying life, and being creative, being inspired. So if you are not in this energy, then the question is, what are you being drained by? Because I do think things are trying to come into your life around this eclipse or potentially after the eclipse that are going to feel really playful and exciting for you. But if you are involved in things that you're not really interested in, or if you are really just busy and doing things that you don't want to do, then you might not have space for this Otter card. But at the same time, we obviously have to respect the fact that there are certain commitments that we have, which is a very true thing for a Virgo eclipse in the 6th house. So this is kind of trying to find a better balance between maybe work and play, or flow versus planning, intuition versus just following through on what you said you were going to do, that type of thing. So I think that you probably need to lean more into the playfulness aspect given your chart and given this Otter card, and ask yourself, what would really feel exciting to have more time to do? Yeah, I guess that's the question I want to ask. I do think that you're going to have some opportunities come to you that I'm like, you might not want it. So I'm wondering if this is something like you initially, it could, I don't know. I just feel like I need to pull more cards on this before we move on. Anything else on this Four of Cups spirit that will help clarify the message here? The Three of Wands. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Three of Wands can represent, like it says, the journey, some kind of journey, some kind of risk that you want to take. So the Four of Cups could be trepidation around going on like a longer journey, or on some type of risk, or maybe some type of travel or move abroad, something like that, where you guys are about to go on some kind of long journey, but you're not so sure about it because there might be a lot ahead of you, like a whole new cycle, a whole new path, and that could cause some trepidation. But if it feels inspiring to you, lean into that with the Otter card. So I guess I'm just going to leave it there. I hope that this is helpful for you guys. If so, let me know any kind of life circumstances that this relates to in the comments down below, because that's always super helpful. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse happening on the 21st is taking place in your 5th house. Overview is very long, so we're not going to go over all the little aspects pertaining to you personally in every single way, but we're going to focus on three main questions. First of all, there is a grand trine that is a part of a kite, and the grand trine is with the Virgo new moon in your 5th house, trining Pluto in your 10th, in Aquarius, and Uranus in Gemini in your 2nd. So I'm asking, what is a blessing or opportunity that's coming as a result of this grand trine? And I got the Page of Cups in reverse, which is the play card in reverse. So I find that interesting because, you know, the 5th house is the house of play, which is where this eclipse is happening. It's a house of joy and fun and pleasure. And of course, like I mentioned, play. So having an eclipse here is going to spark the question, you know, what sparks joy? It could ask you, it could make you think about short-term pleasures and creativity and the things that you enjoy now versus long-term plans and responsibilities and goals. And that is really coming as a result of this eclipse opposing Saturn in the 11th and then Neptune also. So I think that this card in reverse is indicating that there is a complicated relationship right now with one's sense of play, with one's creativity, with being able to just follow your kind of like youthful, childlike, idealistic desires. There's a complicated relationship around that. And it could be because you have a lot going on, especially with the rabbit being your overall energy for this eclipse. The rabbit is very fearful and the rabbit is very distractible. So I do think that you guys could have a lot of nervous energy and scattered energy. And as a result, it could detract from that childlike wonder and playfulness. But this is supposed to be a blessing or opportunity. So I think that the blessing is that you are going to turn this around. And, you know, one of the things I asked is, what should you focus on? Because we have an opposition where Saturn's in the 11th, but then you have this eclipse in the 5th. So do you focus more on the long-term stuff or on the short-term pleasures and joys? Like, what are you supposed to focus on? And I got the 10 of Wands, which is, to me, the Saturn in the 11th house. I feel like what this is saying is this eclipse is about getting all of your ducks in a row, getting all of your shit organized, making sure that you have your, like, all your responsibilities taken care of, clearing that all up, and then you can come back to this playfulness. And I think it's just, I just think that there are more pressing matters of responsibility that have long-term consequence that have to be addressed. And I think that's the nature of Saturn, is kind of unavoidable, and it creates this delay, almost like, oh, you want this thing? Well, first you got to go through Saturn. You want to have joy and creativity and hang out with your children and go on vacation and have fun. Well, first you got to make sure that you do your taxes, or first you got to make sure that you finish all of your work, so that when you leave, you don't have so much stuff on the plate of people around you, whatever. So the 10 of Wands to me is tying up the loose ends that feel like they are pulling on your energy and your psyche. And then once you do that, you will be able to intentionally carve out space for your playtime. But one of the things that I think is causing some stress in your life with Mars and Libra is this idea of feeling maybe some kind of stress at work, like having a lot of responsibilities because Mars is in your 6th. But I think it's also stemming from just like an overall fear of instability or financial lack. So part of what tension needs to be released is the fear around scarcity, the fear around lack, or being financially independent, or being able to take care of something on your own or support yourself on your own. There's something going on there with that I think is scaring you a little bit. And it's causing some, it's causing some inner turmoil. So I think whatever you can do to release that fear is going to be part of what this eclipse will drag up for you, because you're going to feel that fear now. And you might feel like you have to work really hard, and you might put yourself under a lot of undue stress. And so whatever you can do to release that fear is encouraged. And whatever you can do to just like in practical terms, deal with the most pressing matters that have to be taken care of for your stability, for your long-term success, for things not to have negative consequences in your life. Wrap that up. Let go of your fear of scarcity if you can. I mean, that's easier said than done. But I think part of what will help remove that fear of scarcity is literally just kind of doing like planning, getting your ducks in a row for the future. So I don't know what exactly that looks like for you individually, but I think that you're so, with the rabbit, you might be so kind of focused on the here and now and worried about the here and now, and almost like responding with urgency to each crisis that comes up. But I feel like you need to get ahead of things with this Saturn in the 11th house. You need to have a long-term plan in place for that is kind of fail proof, you know, for all of the contingencies or the things that can go wrong, or having a savings account, or having, I don't know. I think you get the concept of what I'm saying. So you need to kind of like get the practical matters sorted in the long term. And that doesn't mean it has to take a long time. It just means that you need to kind of have like a plan and get the immediate urgent things, a plan for your future, and get the immediate urgent things kind of tied up. So you kind of know where you're going, you know where you're headed. And then once you have that as your trajectory, you come back to this present moment and you can enter in this state of playfulness again. But you might not feel that way at this eclipse, but that's what this eclipse is actually trying to do, is trying to clear the way for you to feel playful, for you to feel like you're creating in the flow, hanging out with your kids, having time for yourself. But you can't do that without your laundry done, your dishes clean, your house clean, your money in the bank, your, you know, someone watching your kids if you want to go out and do something for yourself. It's like you got to have the order in your life. And that's what I think the focus should be on at this time, to ultimately come back to that sense of play and wonder and spaciousness. I think that's what it is, like time and space and peace is where you find that play. But you can't do that with these like responsibilities and things looming over your head. So that's what needs to be cleared up first. So that's what I'm seeing for you. I think ultimately the rabbit can be very profitable. The rabbit can be a sign of abundance, a sign of spring, of, you know, an old cycle shedding itself and feeling a sense of renewal. So I do think that you're going to go through over this next 6 months, the whole kind of course and evolution of this, of having to get your ducks in a row and then coming back to this feeling of being rejuvenated after a period of feeling maybe stressed and overburdened with the amount of pressure or weight of things that you have to do. So that's what I see for you, this whole kind of cycle. And I think it's going to be really beautiful. Again, 6 months from now is probably when it's going to come full circle. So that's what I see for you, Taurus. If that is helpful, if that resonates for you, let me know in the comments down below. But don't forget to also give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Gemini, rising, and sun. So this Virgo eclipse, solar eclipse on the 21st of September, is taking place in your 4th house. So definitely some potential to have big changes in the area of your home, your family, your emotional or financial security, some involvements happening there, and even changes in your career and life direction and how that plays a role in your home and stability. The reason I say that is because this eclipse is opposing Saturn and Neptune in your 10th. So we're having this kind of opposition happening where we're being pulled in 2 different directions. We also have a grand trine going on where this eclipse is trining Pluto in your 9th and Uranus in your 1st. And I definitely think that you guys are going through quite a bit of dynamic changes, some changes in the way that you see life, maybe some changes in your personality or your understanding of yourself as a result of this trine. Okay, so I pulled cards asking 3 questions based off of the astrology. The first question that I asked is, what is the blessing or opportunity? Because we have a grand trine, and that tends to bring some type of talent, success, or opportunity our way. And for you guys, I got the King of Wands, which is a card of leadership. So I feel like you guys are entering into a new phase in life, especially because this isn't an angular house, which means it's squaring Gemini, and that creates a little bit more of dynamic change, like I mentioned, and the opportunity for things to move. I think that they're moving now in ways that are, especially with the horse card, are going to feel a lot faster. And you might have a greater sense of freedom. I think Uranus being in your sign already creates that, this change, movement, freedom, things happening quickly. So that's part of what your opportunity is that if you felt kind of like slowed down, because with Saturn and Pisces, it's been squaring your ascendant or your sun in Gemini, you're starting to, this eclipse is marking the beginning of the end of that, and things progressing a lot faster or moving in a better way. So part of the blessing and opportunity, I think, is growing more in your sense of self, your sense of self-worth, your sense of confidence, understanding yourself better, like finding your right kind of path more. The leadership card really speaks to that, feeling really like coming back into inspiration with life a little bit more, or taking charge more with things that you've wanted to do, like moving your life forward with conscious will, deciding, I want this. I'm clear that I want this, and I'm going in that direction. And I'm going to, with the horse, find freedom and movement as a result of listening to myself and feeling confident that I deserve that thing and want that thing. So I feel like a lot of it is like building up your zest for life and consciously making decisions to push your life in a direction that is going to feel empowering, exciting, that is going to like use more of your natural skills and your leadership skills if you have those. But it's just going to align more with your nature and help you express more of your authentic nature and feel freer. So if you felt stifled, if you have felt stuck, if you have felt, in the wrong relationship, in the wrong career, if you felt like you're in the wrong place, or you're not happy with certain elements of your life, I feel like this is you guys getting up, going, saying, I'm going to go to the gym and work out. I'm going to make this change. Or I'm going to start saving money to buy that house I've always wanted, because I said that I wanted it, but I haven't been making steps to do that. Or I always said I wanted this or that. So I'm going to take myself and move that forward consciously. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying with that. My second question is, what tension needs to be released? Because Mars is in Libra, and it can really build up quite a bit of anxiety and anger and things that are not being properly processed. So for you guys, I got and your Mars in Libra is in the 5th house. For you guys, I got the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. So this is some kind of missed opportunity typically. So part of what needs to be released is feeling like something in your life didn't live up to its potential, or didn't manifest the way you wanted it to, or it fell through, or you were on that path, but then it didn't work out. So something that you might consider a failure to launch, failure to grow. I don't know. There's something here around like, I either left something behind, or it left my life, or it didn't work, or it broke down, or something like that, that creates this kind of void in your existence. And I think that part of the tension that you need to release is the stress that has caused you, the uncertainty that this has caused you, and just being able to grieve and let this thing go. So if you always had an expectation that by 30 you were going to be married and had kids, and then you get to 30 and you're single and you don't have any of the things that you thought you would have, that could feel like something was a failure to launch, and you might just have to emotionally mourn kind of where you're at in life compared to what you wanted, or what you saw, or what you expected out of a certain situation, out of your life, out of certain things with your family or your living situation. It could be a lot of different things, but I think the tension that needs to be released is specifically the emotions derived as a result of feeling dissatisfied with that. The last question that I have is, what do you need to focus on? Because we have this opposition with Virgo in your 4th, and then Saturn and Neptune in the 10th. Well, Neptune's in your 11th, but anyway. But I'm just going to focus on Saturn. So I got the Queen of Cups. So I definitely feel like this is a good kind of merging of these energies, given the house placements. But The Queen of Cups is basically saying what you need to focus on is how you feel. What's your intuition telling you? But you can know that based off of how you feel. Do you feel drained by hanging out with somebody? Do you feel like something is nagging you because you haven't expressed something to someone? Or do you feel that you are really overwhelmed at work or unhappy with your colleagues, or that your work isn't listening to you and you're frustrated about that? Or do you feel like you haven't been saving enough money and you're stressed about your finances and you've been kind of off your budget? Doesn't matter what it is, but there's something here that's trying to say that your feelings are communicating to you and you need to listen. And you need to adjust based off of those feelings. So that might mean that you need to address the situation going on in your life, confront something, change something, move towards something or away from something. But you have to use your compass, your emotional compass, as your guide. And that, I think, is speaking very true to an eclipse in the 4th house of emotions and intuition. So that's your overall message, Gemini. I hope that that's helpful for you. I hope that this eclipse brings beautiful things into your life. I do think with the leadership, the King of Wands, and the Horse card, that you are on a really exciting path ahead. I just think that there are maybe some things that you need to process along the way. So again, that's what I see for you. If that resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below about how that pertains to your life. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say Cancer, rising, and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your 3rd house. So what is this going to bring for you, my beautiful Cancers? I've broken up this reading into 3 different questions based off of some of the aspects of the astrology. There is a kite going on at this eclipse, which involves a grand trine. And grand trines typically indicate that there is some type of blessing or opportunity coming your way. Your grand trine is interesting because it involves Uranus, the new moon in the 3rd, trining Uranus in the 12th, and Pluto in the 8th. These are very like mentally focused houses and can have a lot to deal with like anxiety and things like fears and things that are like self-sabotage and things that are leaving our life and what that spurs in us. So part of your blessing and opportunity right now is to transform your mindset and your like inner world to create more inner peace. So this doesn't mean that extenuating or external circumstances are not going to throw you off, or that they're not going to continue. I should say that they're not going to continue to happen, but it's more like, how do I create peace internally amongst the changes in my life? And that's what I see with this 7 of Swords in reverse, which is scarcity mentality, but it's in reverse. So part of your blessing opportunity is using your mind as a tool, honing it, bending it to your will, recognizing where you have control, where you don't, where you need to maybe let go, where you can focus more on, instead of the lack or the things leaving or things going wrong, focus more on like where you feel empowered and what you want to manifest next if something is leaving your life or if things are out of your control. And I really see that with this spider card, because this is your overall theme of this eclipse. And the spider is a master manifester. They weave the web of their own life. They are an animal representative of creation, the act of creation. And you guys need to remember that you and your mind and your thoughts are powerful creators. And so that's what this eclipse is teaching you, is that if you've had negative thinking, if you've self-sabotaged, if you've held yourself back, if you're focused on fears, focused on lack, focused on the things leaving your life or things that you don't have control over, that is going to perpetuate a scarcity mentality, a lack mentality. But this eclipse is trying to get you, with this opportunity for you, to step outside of the way that your framework is and embody this spider energy of realizing that you can rebuild and redesign your framework for viewing life and also your life in general, you know, for what is in your control, because there's always going to be something outside of our control. And this eclipse is in opposition with Saturn. So Saturn and Pisces in your ninth house. And I asked, what do you need to focus on? And I got the King of Cups. So I feel like a lot of what you need to focus on is the Saturn and Pisces in the ninth, which is having a really, really strong intuition, but also having a good kind of like spiritual hygiene or a routine or practice in your life to reconnect to a sense of faith, a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. I think that you guys need to actively put effort into engaging with these higher perspectives in life, like religion or philosophy, or, looking at your soul mission, your soul purpose. It's like you guys are needing to engage more with the spiritual, emotional, intuitive part of life that is going to grant you perspective and a sense of calm amongst the things that you can't control. It's going to give you that bigger picture. It's going to give you a belief system to fall back on, a religious practice to keep yourself ingrained in, to feel grounded in. That's not going to obviously pertain to everybody, but there's going to be something like that for you, whatever that looks like for you. So, for example, if you want to practice like a daily meditation and read a maybe Taoist excerpt, like from the tradition, and then journal about it and go for a walk, like things that keep you ingrained in a different, higher perspective and a sense of faith and putting effort there. So that's part of where your focus needs to be. We all are having some level of tension with Mars and Libra in your fourth house. This Mars is really debilitated. There's a lot going on with it, especially because it's squaring Pluto in your eighth. And I think it's a very concerned Mars, a Mars that's really worried about family, that's really worried about financial security, that's really worried about your home life, your emotional security. And I think that, this Mars is holding all of those things in, and it doesn't know what to do with all those feelings. And so part of what needs to be released right now is your thoughts around that with the King of Swords. I think that you guys, you have to be careful with this square to Pluto in the eighth of building something up in your head in a way that's going to create anxiety and fear and blow it out of proportion. Not to say that bad things can't happen, but sometimes we can start to go into worst case scenarios. So if you're worried about your security, if you're worried about your family members or your housing situation, or your well-being for your kids or whatever, I could see you guys going down like worst case scenario thoughts and that really throwing you off. So part of how you can release tension here is to talk about how you're feeling. I honestly think a therapist would be really, really helpful for this particular placement. If you have a therapist or a really good friend who's like a therapist, this is a good eclipse to talk to them, because this Mars and Libra can be really anxious and not have an outlet for it. And so I think you guys need to share your thoughts, your feelings, your worries. But I also think the reason why you need a therapist or someone else by your side is because you would really benefit from having someone bring you back down to the logical and intellectual reality of something. So instead of creating scenarios in your head of all the things that could go wrong, having somebody that can help you almost think through potholes or like holes in your plans, or have a better like logical way of looking at something that is not as fearful but is more balanced perspective. Really trying to, again, use your intellect to override the emotional distortions that can happen as a result of focusing on fears. So, logically, am I ever going to be destitute? Probably not, because I could do X, Y, and Z type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, let's bring it back to what makes sense. And sometimes having someone else there can help us really find reasoning for things, and use more of that logic. So you guys, your overall mission is to come into the spider energy. You're going through a period of manifestation, but you need to get out of your own way a little bit. That means not lying to yourself, not self-sabotaging, not being overly scarce or overly fearful. You have to be in the presence of mind to be able to get into this energy of manifestation. And it's okay if you're not at the time of the eclipse. Eclipses take 6 months to unfold, so it might take you that full time to get to that place in terms of headspace. But I definitely think this eclipse is going to do that for you. So that's what I see for you guys. I hope that this benefits you in some way. If it resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your second house. Okay, that makes a lot of sense for the cards that I'm pulling. So, oh, I forgot one more card actually. So I'm asking 3 specific questions based off of what I'm seeing in the astrology. And one of the questions is, what is your blessing or opportunity? And the reason for that is because this eclipse is a part of a grand trine. And it is trining Uranus in your 11th and then Pluto in your 7th. So what is coming out for you as like what the blessing is actually the Tower card. Not usually something that I think of when I think of a blessing. So the Tower card is something collapsing. Usually it can represent some type of upheaval in your life or the destruction of something. So if there is something leaving your life, if something has gone to shit, if something has failed, if something has not worked out, if you've had a breakup or a relationship breakdown or a fight, or if you lost your job, or if you decide to move back in with your parents or had a loss of a parent or whatever it is, this is actually going to be a catalyst moment that is going to lead you to some kind of new path for yourself. And as a result of the breakdown or the destruction of something, you are actually going to rebuild something really solid and really secure for yourself. Will that take time? Yes. An eclipse generally takes 6 months to complete itself. So you are likely over the next 6 months going to be rebuilding after a phase of something being lost. So, this could even be what you identified as. Like, I see myself as this kind of person doing this kind of thing in this kind of environment, and then something shifts in your life in this really fundamental way, and it's like the tectonic plates are shifting and earthquakes are happening, and the whole shaking of the foundation of who you thought you were can shift. And that's something that I think is really prevalent or really coming through with this eclipse being opposite Saturn in your 8th house, because the 8th house is the house where we often have some type of loss or change or crisis in our lives. This Tower moment doesn't have to be a negative experience, but I will say 8th house trans, especially with Saturn, can feel negative. So if you are feeling a little bit tense, like, I can't believe this negative thing is happening to me, this thing is leaving my life, this thing is breaking down, you might feel that as a negative experience, but the ultimate outcome of it is going to lead to something really stable, to new growth. When you burn down that forest, and then the type of environment that grows in after it is totally different. The ecosystem is completely different, and it's also really renewed because of all of the nutrients as a result of the burnt, trees and foliage before. So there's something totally new that is going to start building in your life as a result of this destruction, and as a result of what you've learned and changed about yourself with this thing leaving your life. Okay. The next question that I asked is, what tension needs to be released? Because we are having Mars in Libra, and that is in your 3rd house. So it is definitely possible right now to have some tension with other people, especially because this trine and everything going on with the grand trine, talking about the Tower moment, does involve Pluto in your 7th. So there could be some relationship stuff going on. The Tower could involve people leaving your life or breakdowns in relationship. And Mars in Libra also creates dysfunction in relationship as well. So it is possible that that's an area of stress for you, that you could have some kind of conflict, that you have to really talk out with people. That is a potential. Another potential, because the 3rd house is the house of the mind, not just communication. It's going to speak to the quality of your mind. And with the Ace of Swords in reverse, I definitely feel like the quality of your mind is not the best right now. You might be confused. You might be following a lot of different rabbits scattered out everywhere. You might have poor communication or trouble communicating with people. You might have, you might feel really blocked because maybe you are feeling like you can't find a solution to something, or an idea for something. You might feel like there is too much stimulation going on, too much going on that's creating anxiety and stress, or it could be the opposite. So there's a lot going on with the quality of the mind, and that's the tension that needs to be released, is like this nervous mental energy and the potential for poor communication. So your mind might be misinterpreting, misunderstanding, or focusing on the wrong things, or your communication could be not going well. Either way, both of those things need to be like let go of. So I don't know, this could be through exercise, this could be through journaling, this could be talking to a therapist, but you need to kind of sort through your ideas and maybe find some outlet for them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The third question that I asked is, what do you need to focus on? Because we have this eclipse where it's in Virgo in your second house, and it's opposing Saturn and Pisces in the 8th and Neptune. So we're having this like juxtaposition of being pulled in two different directions. And then we're like, okay, well, which one do I go in? With the Virgo being in the second house, I definitely feel like the loss is happening to you with Saturn in the 8th. There's some destabilizing event. And what you need to do is focus on the rebuilding phase. You don't need to focus on what's leaving. You need to focus on what's coming in, or what's needing to stabilize as a result of this change in your life or identity. And that's why I see with the Four of Pentacles. This is about somebody who is saving money, who is focused on building wealth, building income, creating financial security for themselves, creating security within their home or their physical environment, their money, or the things that they own. So there's some sense of material life needing to be stabilized. So some kind of like major shift in your identity and your reality and your relationships is happening. I think it's going to throw you off a little bit mentally, and you need to kind of come back to yourself, recenter yourself, stabilize yourself in the material world in some way. This could also be stabilizing your, value systems, what you're focusing on, what you're wanting to build next. But there's a sense of needing to find security, needing to find stability, needing to feel safe. And that's super important when we're going through a lot of shifts and changes and unknowns. We need to find something that feels really grounded and stable for ourselves. And that's what an eclipse, a Virgo eclipse in the second house, is all about. It's also about the Justice card. This goes along with the Four of Pentacles, and this speaks about balance, fairness. So the thing that's entering into your life next, I think, is going to have a better balance for you. Maybe it's balancing two different parts of your life, or two different interests that you have, or two different, maybe it's just balancing in the sense that you get more like the right amount of money for the effort that you're putting in, or maybe it's being treated fairly in the work that you're doing, or feeling more fulfilled by the work that you're doing, in this give and take. So it's creating some kind of security and sense of balance. That's the focus for you right now. I also pulled the Elk card. So this is like the overall theme, and the Elk card is a masculine card, and it speaks a lot to creating a sense of protection and stability and security through, again, masculine things like having money, or having some type of material success or accomplishment, or whatever the physical part of the world is, speaks to this Elk. So some of you guys might need to be kind of rebuilding your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and you can do that by creating the stability and putting one foot in front of the other. So that might mean saving extra money on the side, or it might mean doing something else to create that sense of security in your life. Having some kind of like long-term plan, or developing a skill could also be helpful for this. There's going to be so many ways that security can be obtained, but it is likely going to be through some type of material means. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Leo. It's, again, this eclipse is all about 6 months of letting something go and rebuilding something in its place and focusing on that. So I hope that this is helpful for you. Please let me know if it relates to you in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and next we have Virgo rising and sun. This eclipse is happening in Virgo in your sign on September 21st, and it's a solar eclipse in your first house. So really big deal for you on a fundamental level, especially if you have any planets or angles or anything around 29 degrees of Virgo, which my ascendant is 26 Virgo. So this is going to be felt for me. So what can you guys expect? Number of things going on. One of them is a kite, where this new moon is making a, as part of a grand trine to Uranus in your 10th and to Pluto in your 6th. So I was asking Spirit, what do you get with this grand trine? Because usually grand trines offer some kind of blessing or opportunity. And I got the 2 of Cups for you guys, which is a partnership card. So, the obvious thing would be to say that some of you guys could potentially meet somebody during an eclipse like this that has the potential to make a really big impact in your life. This could be a new friend, getting close with somebody. This could be that you even get a good therapist that helps you really talk through things. Or this could be that you meet a potential romantic partner. But the 2 of Cups also speaks to the general idea of just finding a match, and also the idea of a support system. So some of you guys could find that there is somebody who's got your back right now, or you find a good match for a specific desire that you have, or almost the right puzzle piece that fits into something that is an issue for you, finding the missing puzzle piece, I guess, to create the solution to a problem. So there's a lot of things that can manifest with this. So the 2 of Cups really speaks to finding something, the universe giving you the right thing that matches you in this time of need. It could be the right person in your life, again, or a right kind of dynamic that is going to kind of finish off that puzzle. But this eclipse is a little challenging because it's opposing Saturn in your 7th house. So even though you might be getting some person or some missing piece or some kind of information or a match for something for you, that again kind of resolves a problem or helps meet a certain need, even though that's happening, we also have Saturn in the 7th. So there's also a way that other people are pulling on your energy. So even though that you might draw someone in to meet a need, other people in your life might have their own needs, and they're kind of pulling you away from yourself and towards them because of the responsibility that you might have towards them. So that could create some inner tension of following my path versus how this affects other people and things like that. One of the questions I asked is what should you focus on in this opposition? And I got the competition in reverse, the 5 of Wands in reverse. So I feel like this is saying, how can you work together with something or someone to get your desired result and no longer see yourself as me versus them, or a competition. We're fighting for the same resource, or we're fighting against one another. I feel like that is something that might come up at this eclipse. There is quite a bit of volatile relationship energy. We have Venus in Virgo in your 1st house squaring Uranus in your 10th. So some weird stuff could be going on with different relationships and colleagues and things like that in your workplace or wherever. Authority figures could be acting weird. There's some stressful dynamics relationally. But I really feel like the universe is encouraging you to not make this feel like a competition, even if there is some inherent competition in something. I almost feel like there's a way to not focus on that, I guess. Not be driven by that, and instead find a way to like work together with someone or something to create the desired result, and focus on that rather than how you have to beat someone else out to get what you want, or how you have to fight someone to get what you deserve or whatever. I feel like this competition card is saying we don't want to focus on the strife between people. We want to focus on how to bring things together so that everyone gets like the best possible outcome. Even if there is an inherent competition, not focusing on that element. You know, like let's say you're an athlete. You're obviously competing against people, you know, who are on the opposite team or whatever. But instead of focusing on them as a competition and competitors, focusing on you and your team or you and your goal. Yeah. So any other clarification, Spirit, around that competition card? Any other? Too many. Just one. Any other cards? Anything? Yeah. I feel like you guys might need to focus instead on developing a certain skill within yourself with the Page of Pentacles, investing in yourself, investing in like time and energy into something that is going to make you naturally stand above the rest. If there is a competition, like if you're competing for a job or for an apartment or for some type of resource that's limited, building yourself up, building up your resume or making yourself seem good, I feel like is part of this. And not like the Page of Wands in reverse. I feel like not flying by the seat of your pants, having more of a plan, having more of, yeah, I don't know. I guess this is just saying like you can, I think it's saying like don't focus on the issues with other people or you needing to beat somebody. I already said that many times. Instead, focus on making yourself better in the material world, whether that's like healing your body, because this is an eclipse in the first house. You know, losing weight so that you have like more health to offer. Or maybe this is developing a skill or like building yourself up somehow success wise or like physically wise. And not being so like whatever I want to do right now, you know. Instead you have a plan and you're kind of sticking to that plan and you're giving yourself undeniable evidence that you are worthy of the thing that you want. And so it's like focusing on building yourself up rather than tearing someone else down or competing against someone. So focusing internally. And I do think that you're going to have some support here. Again, some kind of missing piece, like a person, a relationship, somebody to come in who's going to build you up as well, or offer you resources, or offer you some type of match for your problem. Like there's someone else that's going to come in and support you. And one of the overall themes for you is the Firefly card, which is about focusing on the light in a period of darkness. So some of you guys may be coming out of a period of darkness. Some of you guys might be in a period of darkness. Where you're at in this evolution doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are focusing on the light. So you're focusing on what can go right, what you can do for yourself, what you can control, how you can improve your situation in life, how you can improve your health and well-being, how you can have more faith in yourself. That's kind of what you need to focus on. The things that are exciting, the things that are coming up in the future, and not focusing on the things going wrong or the things that bring you down with the darkness there. And then my last question that I asked Tarot is, what do you need what tension needs to be released? Because we all have Mars in Libra right now. For you, this is in your second house. So, you know, Mars in the second can create a little bit of worry around money and like practical material matters. You might be worried about how you're going to pay for something, or, you know, how you want to handle something that you own, or literally anything physical. You could be worried about something physical. And that could take on a million different avenues. And I just feel like with this Page of Swords, this is somebody who is very like mentally agile, but I almost feel like there's restlessness here. Like they're having a lot of different thoughts to the point of it becoming maybe a little bit overwhelming. So, maybe you're worried about something in the material reality, something like about your house or something about your financial independence, or I don't know, whatever it is. And you could be like in your head and having so many ideas and this and that. And I don't know. I could see that causing distress because you're not like settled mentally. The other thing of this card is like needing to be patient, needing to have a plan, needing to like play your cards right. So having like setting things up correctly. So what you need to do to release the tension is to kind of get your ducks in a row and be patient with things, and do your best to not try to like anticipate everything and worry about everything and feel rushed with things or whatever. I feel like you guys need to be patient and trust that the right things will come along when they need to come along, that you'll have the money or the home or whatever resources that you need in the material world, or that it will resolve itself if you have an issue in your house breaking down or an issue with a partner or whatever, that things will kind of stabilize in your material realm and that you don't need to think about everything all the time, that you can just try to have your plan and be patient and allow things to unfold as they're meant to unfold. So that's how you can release that tension there. So again, we need to continue to focus on the light when things get stressful, because I could see the darkness crowding in around you. Not that you're going to be going through all these dark experiences. You could, but it's not so much about that. It's just that it's easy to focus on the wrong things, especially with this eclipse opposite Saturn. There can be a sense of like despair that we can fall into, and it's important to stoke and cultivate that inner source of inspiration in life and that sense of hope for the future, and focusing on things that you're excited about, the things that you want to grow or build or move into. And that is going to help you find more of what you are wanting in life. So that's what I see for you, Virgo. I hope that that's helpful. If so, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next you have Libra rising and sun. The Virgo solar eclipse happening on September 21st is taking place in your 12th house. So what can we come to expect from this? Definitely watch the overview if you haven't, but there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. And one of them is that this is a kite, and the new moon is making a grand trine, which is like the bottom half of the kite, with Uranus in your 9th and Pluto in your 5th. So what I feel like is going on here for you guys is that there is a general lightening of your being that is meant to be happening as a result of this eclipse. One of the things that grand trines give us is some kind of blessing or opportunity. And with this trining planets, a planet in the 9th and a planet in the 5th, these are houses that are really buoyant, that are, again, light, that make us feel optimistic, that make us feel happy, that increase one's joy in life, one's prosperity. But an eclipse in the 12th doesn't really always feel that way. Like the 12th house can feel like we're having to let something go. So what I feel like you're doing is letting something go and becoming lighter as a result. Moving on from like an old cycle and feeling happy and light, or having something from the past kind of be let shed, or having like a new spiritual path or creative path emerge for you, and following that and feeling really light and excited, inspired, and connected. So it can be a number of those things. So I asked Spirit, what is the blessing or the opportunity that you're getting from this trine? And I got the King of Cups, which is a card of emotional maturity. It's a card of feeling wise because of the experiences you've been through, feeling like you've grown, feeling like you've matured, feeling like you've let stuff go, or you've learned how to handle different things in your life. feeling like you are following your intuition and like you know how to trust yourself and your own instincts with things, and that your stuff from your childhood isn't coming up to bother you. And the reason I say that is because we are having Mars in Libra, which is in your first house, and Mars is very troubled right now in astrology. It's opposing Chiron, squaring Pluto. It's in this quincunx with Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. It's in a sign it doesn't like to be in. So this Mars is really dysfunctional. And so I do think that this eclipse is going to bring up some tension with the Page of Cups in reverse around your childhood. So like things that have emotionally previously bothered you. It doesn't have to be childhood, but things that have like previously bothered you, maybe relationship issues that previously have bothered you, or if there was some kind of like emotional immaturity around certain dynamics with people in your life where you were emotionally mature or they were emotionally mature, that could have bothered you. Or yeah, I don't know, there's just something of like being, you know how kids are like emotionally dysregulated? That's how I see this. Like some things in your life that bothered you a lot more in the past could come back up for you to let them go and realize how much you've grown and how much you've matured since then. So typically they get agitated first, and then we like for a day or something, and then we realize how much we've actually overcome that and how far we are away from that previous emotional instability. So that's what I'm seeing for yourself, is like this growth that you've gone through. You know, like for example, if you had a kid and your first kid, you were so worried about them and so worried about if they're going to be okay, and you were just constantly a bundle of nerves. And then you had a third kid and maybe they go through a little scare and they get sick, and you brings up those old feelings, but then you quickly get over it and you realize how different you are now with your third kid than your first, how much more grounded and safe you feel, how much more emotionally stable you feel, how much more you trust that they're going to be okay. And in your parenting skills, it's like you see the growth that you've made. Even though you have a little bit of that old feeling coming back for a moment, it actually allows you to have the perspective of how far you've come, because sometimes we don't realize it because it's so gradual. But having a little shock of the old and then grounding back into who we are now can actually help us see how far we've grown, or how far we've come. And this is going to take 6 full months to complete. So if you're like, I'm not there yet, I still have something that I need to feel safe about, feel light about, feel stable about, you know, emotionally. If you're still working on something inside, don't worry, you have like this whole 6 months to do that. And your theme is the crocodile, which I think is super interesting because this pertains to an animal that's both in the water and on land. Crocodiles live in both. I'm from Florida, so I'm very aware of crocodiles. And anyway, so, you know, I think that you guys are finding a unique balance of like productivity and emotional stuff, like emotional stability, you know, things that affect you emotionally, like your loved ones, your relationships, the things that creatively inspire you, things like that. Spirituality, those are emotional things. And then we have like the practical material matters. So I feel like this crocodile is speaking to you coming into balance with those two things. And the reason I say that also is because the last cards that I pulled, which I asked Spirit, what do you need to focus on? And we got the Queen of Wands and the 10 of Pentacles. So to me, this is kind of like 6th house matters, 6/10th house matters here, which relates to the fact that this Virgo eclipse is opposite Saturn in your 6th. So I think that Spirit is trying to tell you that right now, like the main focus for you should be on like grinding something out. So there is some kind of career or life goal that you have, maybe a creative goal, or something that's like in the material realm, a goal that you have that you need to go all in on right now. So this could be an investment. This could be starting a new type of job. It could potentially be something with your body. So starting something new with your body and your health routine. This could be that you need to put yourself out there and market yourself more for something that you're already doing and go all in on something you're already dedicated to. But it's something about here of like being confident, going all in on something, and having the money or the success, the tangible results as a result of those efforts. And that's again why I see this blending in the crocodile of focusing on material pursuits, which is the crocodile on land, but then also on your emotional stability and your growth emotionally, which is the crocodile in water. So I see you guys needing to go all in on something work oriented. Give it everything you've got. Be confident. Trust yourself that you can make some type of legacy for yourself with this goal, that you can leave a lasting impact with this goal. But also kind of processing your feelings so that you realize, so that you're in a place of greater emotional stability and maturity around things that maybe used to trigger you, or things that you used to react poorly to or couldn't handle. Coming to a place of greater emotional development, emotional intelligence, and kind of like self-soothing techniques also. So that's kind of that's the overall message for you guys. It's two different paths, but I think that they are going to work really well together. So that's what I have for you, my Libras. If that resonates, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. Up next, we have Scorpio rising and sun. For you guys, this Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is happening in your 11th house of relationships. And I'm asking 3 questions based off of the astrology. It's a really complex one with lots of aspects and things going on, but I want to kind of focus it on 3 different areas. The first is, what is the blessing and opportunity coming to you? Because this new moon is a part of a kite, and half of the kite is a grand trine, which typically provides some kind of opportunity or blessing. So the new moon is trining Uranus in your 8th and trining Pluto in your 4th. What is that bringing up for you? Well, I got the 2 of Cups upright and then the Ace of Swords in reverse. So to me, that this is indicating that you guys are going to have the potential to have some kind of conflict resolution, some type of communication to ease some stressors or miscommunications or confusion relationships. If there's any kind of issue going on with people in your life, and you're not communicating, you're not on the same page with someone or something, I can see you guys being able to work to clear that up at this time. So part of the blessing is that you guys are going to be able to restore a sense of balance and harmony in your relationships as a result of addressing things that you feel, things that have gone unsaid, things that have been misunderstood, or that are, again, have ended you up on different pages. Another way that this can manifest is by recognizing and bringing into harmony 2 different aspects of the self. So let's say, for example, that you really, really want to have a long-term relationship that looks like X, Y, and Z, but maybe you keep doing certain things or getting into relationship with certain types of people or attracting certain things into your life as a result of your choices and your focus that leads you on a different path from what you said you wanted. So like, let's say I really want to have a successful long-term career, but then I keep taking jobs that I know aren't going to lead me to that, and that I know don't fulfill me. And so I'm saying one thing and doing another, and there's an incongruency in my actions between my wishes and what I'm like perpetuating. So if it's not a relationship if it's not kind of smoothing over a relationship, I think one of the opportunities or blessings that's coming is smoothing over these 2 parts that are kind of working in conflict from one another. You know, saying one thing and doing another. I see you guys recognizing and kind of getting all of yourself on board with the thing that you really want. So creating more, like, less cognitive dissonance, basically, or relationship dissonance. Okay, my second question is, what tension do you need to release? Because we currently have your planetary ruler, Mars, in Libra, which is a sign it doesn't like to be in your 12th house, and then a lot of other things going on with it, like a square to Pluto, opposition to Chiron, a lot of stuff going on with it that makes it really dysfunctional. So when your planetary ruler is going through it, in a way, you guys are kind of going through it. And with the 8 of Pentacles in reverse, I feel like you guys could be just feeling like life is not, for some of you guys, it could feel like life is all work, no play. With this Otter card, you might need to have a better balance of things that make you feel really lighthearted, things that make you feel creatively inspired. So you guys could be having things out of balance with work. Some of you guys could feel like you're not enjoying your work as much, or there's an issue at work. Maybe you don't have enough work, or maybe it's too much work, or the things that you're doing at work you're not liking. So there's something going on here with like your career or what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, that you might be going through a period of questioning it a little bit more. So to release tension, I feel like what it's saying is not, I don't know, like not putting so much pressure on yourself to be so productive and do all these things. I feel like, what if you just relaxed a little bit? What if you just took a day off? What if you just did something for fun instead of putting pressure on maybe figuring your future out, or again, being really productive, or those things, which is kind of like hard for Virgos, because which is this, I'm not saying you're a Virgo, but this eclipse is Virgo, and usually Virgo is very concerned with like efficiency and productivity, and I feel like that's draining you and it's creating tension. And part of how you can blow off tension is by trying to just go out in nature, have fun, go swimming, pick up an art craft, hang out with friends, go on an adventure, do something you don't normally do, get out of a routine, get out of like this feeling of being stuck in a responsibility, or having just so much on your plate that you're not able to relax. Being able to unwind, just like take the pressure off. Anything else around the spirit, around this 8 of Pentacles, the 6 of Cups in reverse, and the 3 of Wands? Oops. Yeah, I mean, some of you guys, there might be things from your past, like old hobbies and things that you used to do, like maybe you used to travel sometimes, or I don't know, like go on adventures more, go outside and do things in nature more. I just feel like you guys, maybe even some of you guys did photography. There's some of you guys did something in the past that maybe you've put down for a while and you haven't been involved in, and it's saying you need to come back to that childlike play. You need to re-engage with the activities you did when you were younger, or that you did a few years ago when you were just didn't feel the pressure of like work and life and responsibility. It's almost like just allowing yourself to do something for fun that you used to really enjoy. And then my last question is, what do you need to focus on? Because this eclipse in your 11th is opposing Saturn in your 5th. I guess that makes a lot of sense with what I'm saying around like having fun versus like long-term play. I think you guys need to have more fun. And I think it's going to actually make it clear what you want to do in the future by having more fun. But what do you need to focus on? I got the Page of Pentacles, and this speaks to, I feel like it's the development of something new, a new path for work, because I just feel like there's something work oriented I'm getting like the visual of a fruit that's like dried out, so it doesn't have the juice anymore. So maybe there's something that you've really gotten all you could out of a situation, and all of like the fun and the joy that it brought you, and all these really positive things, like they're starting to diminish now, and you're only going to continue to get diminishing returns. It's not going to restore to the way it once was. And so I don't know, I feel like some of you guys are needing to put more energy or emphasis, or develop more another skill, another potential path for yourself, another interest, again, that maybe you were previously doing that you put down, or always said that you wanted to do as a child and then forgot about. I feel like you guys need to focus now on the development of some kind of like particular interest of yours that feels really exciting to you. Saturn, and then this to me is a Saturn in the 5th. The dedication and the discipline towards something that should be pleasurable is Saturn in the 5th to me. So like making a business out of your crafts projects that you do and selling them and getting a lot of joy from it. Yes, it's still work and requires effort and discipline, but it's also this creative project that feels like an extension of you, and it's exciting. So something like that where you're like, I'm actually really good at that. I really enjoy that creative hobby. Let me put effort into that and focus on that more, because I feel like I could grow that into something meaningful, because my current area of work feels like it's taking more from me than it's giving. And that doesn't mean that you should quit your job and like become a photographer or whatever, because we want to be realistic. You know, we don't want to do anything overnight. Not to say you can't be a photographer professionally, but those things don't happen overnight. So what you need to do is not put as much focus and attention on this like requirements for yourself, and more on and like having it all figured out for your future, and more so on developing something that you're initially interested in right now, and putting your focus there and seeing where that leads you long term. Because with this otter card, I think it's going to lead you to a lot more fun and play in the area of work for you guys. So that's what I'm saying for you, Scorpio. If that resonates, let me know in your comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your 10th house of career. And this is going to be a very eventful eclipse. There's a lot of aspects, a lot of complex things going on. But I wanted to break it down into 3 particular questions that I asked the tarot, and based off of the astrology. So first of all, this eclipse is a part of a overall aspect pattern called a kite, and the bottom half of a kite is a grand trine, which is basically the sun and moon in Virgo trining Uranus in your 7th house, and then Pluto in your 3rd house. These are very these are social houses, even though the eclipse is in the 10th, which is not necessarily social. But I'm seeing you benefit from the relationships and people around you through connections, talking to people, getting to know people, organizations even. Those are areas that I could see you benefiting from. But the Grand Trine speaks about having some kind of blessing or opportunity come. So I asked the cards, what is that opportunity for you? And I got the 10 of Pentacles, which says legacy, and the Justice card, which says balance. So what I see for you guys with this eclipse being the 10th house, which is the house of legacy, I see you guys being able to really make some headway, or have some clarity, or have some kind of movement in the direction of your purpose, your kind of next big moves in life. So sometimes I see people get married when they have an eclipse in the 10th, or change career paths, or change where they live. Some kind of fundamental things will sometimes shift when there are eclipses in an angular house like this. And legacy speaks to these changes being things that last the test of time, that they are not these kind of immediate things that, you know, you're going to get rid of, but they are impactful, again, things that will leave a legacy for many years in your own life, but also could speak to your legacy and how you leave a legacy to the world around you. I also think you guys are finding more balance between work and rest, work and family, work and home life. I do think that potentially, since this eclipse is opposing Saturn in your 4th, that could initially feel like an issue. But as a result of the next 6 months and the work that you do in this eclipse, I could see you being adaptable and finding a way to make these things feel balanced for you. You might also feel like money is becoming more balanced, or issues at work are resolving themselves as a result of this eclipse, and that you feel more financially stable, or you feel clear around your purpose, or you have a greater sense of clarity around your plan long term. So those are some of the blessings, and they might not come initially. They might take the full 6 months. My second question was, what friction needs to be released? What tension emotionally needs to be released, or otherwise? And this is related to Mars and Libra, which is in your 11th house. This is a very dysfunctional Mars. I don't want to get into all the details of it, but this Mars is struggling at this time. So it's causing us to kind of repress some issues in our lives, especially anger and things that we really want. We might shove it down. So what is this for you? I pulled the Page of Pentacles. So in terms of what needs to be released, most of the other groups had like a really clear message around something really irritating them, really causing tension inside of them. But for you, this card is a lot more about like ambition and knowing what you want out of life, going for what you want in life, and further developing the skills to achieve that thing. So this has me thinking that there could potentially be some changes in your career or in the things that you want, in the direction that you decide to move in your life, that may feel initially intimidating, like, oh, this is a really long-term goal that I have, but I still have to like, I haven't started it yet, or I'm kind of at the beginning of it and I still have so much to go, I guess, before I feel like I'm reaching that level of accomplishment. So I think this could be speaking to the long-term vision of things, and the stress that that can cause when you're thinking about everything that is still to come. And so part of what needs to be released, I think, is the tension you might hold around your ambition, and to almost just kind of do your best to not overthink and to just jump into the things that you want to do, because Mars and Libra can be very indecisive. So part of the way that you can release some of that tension is to not spend so much time worrying and thinking about everything, but just kind of follow your instinct. And I asked Spirit what you should focus on, because with an eclipse that's opposing Saturn, we have Saturn and Neptune, we have two strong forces that are pulling us in two different directions. One is kind of focused for you more on career, and the other is focused more on your home life. And it's not so simple as that, but that's overarching themes. So I asked Spirit, what do you need to focus on? And I got the Page of Swords. So the Page of Swords is somebody who is, they're able to use their intellect for the things that they want to do. So I guess what a card like this is speaking about is being open-minded, is being, like a good learner. Like this card says, curious, adaptable, agile, looking for new ideas, looking for inspiration, coming up with plans and concepts and putting things together in a way. But it doesn't feel super solid. It's like in the ideation phase of something, when you start making like a mock-up, or you start writing an outline, or doing like collecting images on your Pinterest board for inspiration. So that's the kind of picture in my head that I'm getting. So I think that this Page of Swords is saying that part of what you need to focus on is maybe having some kind of future orientation, some kind of ideation and planning, but not stressing yourself out about doing all of the things and having all of the answers at once. It's like more of a period of like curating things that you enjoy and pulling them together and seeing and exploring and asking questions around, why do I like each of these things, and how do these things maybe tie together? How can I maybe pursue something that allows me to involve all these things that I like, but not forcing yourself to already have like this whole schedule and this whole plan and do everything all at once. Instead, just allow the inspiration to spark and then follow each thing as it goes. And you will notice that you naturally develop the skill, or you naturally develop this path and go further down this path as a result of just following each kind of instinct. So yeah, the overarching theme as well for your message here, I find this interesting. We got the wolf and the lamb. I just feel like you guys have a lot more focused on work, but then when I'm pulling cards around the theme for the message, I'm getting something that's more, to me, associated with relationships. And it could speak about family, because Saturn is in your fourth. So it could speak about relationships in terms of like the wolf pack, like your family unit and things like that. It doesn't have to. It could also speak about friends. So it's whatever relates to you. But the wolf and the lamb, every other group, they got one card. You got two. To me, this speaks about a number of things. Okay. Number one, this is not to scare you guys, but you do have Mars in the 11th. And again, it's very troubled. And this could indicate that there is some type of wolf in sheep's clothing, since these are literally paired together, that someone that you think is a friend or that you think is like helpful for you or on your side, and actually they're not who you think they are. That's one thing. But the other message that's came through more strongly or more initially was this idea of having some kind of fresh start in your community. It may come on the back of some kind of strife in regards to friends, because having this malefic in the 11th house can, and being so troubled, can cause quite a bit of insecurity or anxiety around your sense of belonging and around your friendships in your life. And so that might be a sensitive topic right now. Like maybe you haven't had as much time for your friends and you feel like disconnected and you feel maybe more alone. Like that would be an example. So to me, this is indicating that while it may initially create issues with friends, as a result of the full eclipse cycle 6 months from now, you are going to go through the process of purification and returning to innocence and reconnecting with people in a stronger way. Maybe not feeling as like jaded or disconnected or alone, but having a reset in that area of your life to feel that you are loved, that people surround you, that people care, having maybe a new group of friends, or having a reset in your existing relationships, like a cleansing in your relationships, especially friendships, is a message here. So it might, if it has to be cleansed, that does indicate that there's an initial problem or stress there. So it's going to be both sides that you're going to experience the full cycle of going from a difficult situation with friends to a positive one. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. A lot of it is focusing on work, but with that Mars in the 11th, and again, really struggling, I think that there's going to bring up some relationship issues as well. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. I hope that that's helpful for you and resonates. If it does, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm next to you have Capricorn rising and sun. For you guys, this Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your 9th house. So this is a very complicated eclipse because there's a lot of different interplanetary aspects. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is the fact that this eclipse is a part of a kite, which is an aspect pattern. The bottom half of a kite is called a grand trine, and it involves a trine between the sun and moon in Virgo, Uranus, which is in your 6th house in Gemini, and then Pluto in your 2nd house in Aquarius. So a grand trine can typically represent some kind of talent or blessing or opportunity coming to us when it's in a transit chart like this. So I first asked the cards, what is that talent or what is that opportunity coming to you? And I got the Page of Wands in reverse and the Two of Cups upright. So what I got from this was that with the Page of Wands in reverse, you guys might be going from feeling like you're kind of disengaged with something in life. Like this could be like life has been boring, or like your relationships haven't been as fun. Maybe things have been really status quo in your personal life. Maybe things have been not just like, I feel like not as engaging, not as inspiring. You know, that zest for life could have been a little bit bogged down a little bit. I mean, not to say that you had no zest for life, but just that maybe there's been a lot on your plate and a lot on your responsibilities and things like that. But with the Two of Cups, I feel like there's something happening here where you are going to be able to find some type of passion or interest or thing that really gets you excited because it feels like you are finding something that matches who you are and your energy and your personality. So being able to engage more with life again because you found a hobby or a new friend group, or maybe you started dating someone new, or maybe you had a total revitalization of your existing marriage. If you've been kind of plateauing, for example, or stagnating in your marriage, I can see you guys like somehow reigniting that spark of adventure together, that fire in your relationship, and maybe doing more fun and exciting things together. An eclipse in the 9th is a lot about a sense of adventure and doing and interacting with things that are foreign or learning new things. And I feel like you guys are going out there and growing more in a way that might feel like it makes you feel more alive than I think you have had in a while. Not that you haven't had moments of feeling really good and really alive, but I think that maybe you felt just somehow disengaged with certain elements or stagnant with certain elements of your life. And if that resonates, then that area of your life is going to get a little bit of a revamp here. So the second question that I asked is, what tension needs to be released? Because we have Mars in Libra in your 10th house, and it is a very dysfunctional Mars. It's squaring Pluto in your second. It's also it's a part of a yod. I don't want to get into all of it, but there is a lot of tension here. And we got the Six of Pentacles. Definitely for me, having Mars in the 10th and then also opposite Chiron in the 4th, there's something here around maybe things not feeling totally balanced or fair in your work or home environment. So for example, I mean, there's a million examples of this, but like maybe your family treats one member of the family different than you, or maybe, you know, your partner doesn't do as much of the labor in the home, and then you're really busy in your work, and then you're also having to do that, and it's not fair. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can be pulled in two different directions between work and home, or that things are imbalanced in the dynamics, either in work or home or both. And it's causing some level of stress. So the Six of Pentacles is this energy of things coming back into balance. So in order to release the tension and the stress that you're having, it's helpful to try to find a way to feel like things are fair. Feel like things are even. If things have been unfair in your family kind of dynamics or in your work, or again, in the interaction of those, if they've been imbalanced, unfair, if you've been holding more weight or not getting recognition, or working so hard, or, you know, struggling to do both, handle both responsibilities, then the Six of Pentacles is saying the best way to find a relief is to maybe talk to somebody and bring out like the necessary behavioral environmental changes to create more balance, or to create more support, for people to be more generous, for there to be this kind of equal give and take, so you're not sacrificing so much. So that's another message. Okay. So the last message is, what do you need to focus on? Because with this new moon, aka solar eclipse, opposite Saturn and Neptune, we're kind of being pulled in two different directions. So what's interesting is that I feel like for most groups, it's kind of leaned one way or the other, like more towards the Virgo new moon or more towards Saturn and Pisces. But for you guys, I'm getting the message with the Two of Pentacles that you kind of need to really focus on balancing both of these things out. So I think on one hand, with this eclipse being in the 9th and the Fool card, there is some kind of new beginning you're meant to be pursuing. Like I already mentioned, some kind of growth or a new hobby or traveling or moving or whatever. But I see you guys engaging with something new that excites you in life again. That to me is this eclipse in the 9th. But you have Saturn in the 3rd and Neptune in the 4th. And so I think you might still have responsibilities in your day-to-day life. I think you might be quite busy. I think you might have a lot going on at home. And so in order to, you basically have to find a way to balance them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not like you have to do that new thing because it's what's going to make you feel most alive. And you also can't neglect these other responsibilities and busy things that you have to do. So this is basically saying the things that you need to focus on is just doing your absolute best to learn how to prioritize things in the moment so things feel like they're moving along in both areas of your life. And sometimes that means cutting out distractions and really looking at our priorities through like a a different lens, a stricter lens, because you're adding something to your life. So the overall theme of your reading is the dragon, which I thought was super cool because I really never pull this card. And the dragon to me, as a fantasy reader, is such a symbol of power, of strength, you know, potential destruction, but also prosperity. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's something magical about this eclipse for you. I mean, I will say that this is not really a pleasant eclipse, even though your cards are like pretty pleasant. This is not really like a good eclipse overall. I mean, there's some weird stuff going on that makes it challenging, especially for relationships. But I feel like you guys are just so strong and powerful right now. And this eclipse, or this new journey you're going on, this new adventure, this new kind of growth cycle, or this thing that you're starting, is going to make you feel really magical and really inspired and really powerful. And yeah, I just feel like it's going to strengthen your essence and strengthen your confidence, and almost like give you this extra kind of superpower. Like a dragon, you know, it doesn't literally exist, and it has this kind of like mystical quality. So I feel like you're going to gain some really incredible new attributes of yourself. Yeah, I just think you're going to start to see yourself differently. You're going to change as a result of this eclipse, in a positive way. Like, I feel like this is a growth mindset, optimistic, and maybe even having more kind of faith, you know, as a result of these experiences. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. I hope that's helpful for you or resonates. Let me know if so in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius rising and sun. This Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your 8th house. And you can see Luna right here, my dog. But this eclipse is not the most favorable, and then also it's not happening in the best house for you. The 8th house tends to be a house where things kind of get a little bit jumbled. They can create a sense of fear, you know, issues around money and taxes can come up, relationship intimacy issues, those are common things. But one of the words that stood out to me for an 8th house eclipse for you guys was the fact that the 8th house is considered the idle place in traditional astrology. So there's a sense of, I don't know, almost like, you know, stagnant air, stagnant pond type of thing. Things are not flowing, things are resting, they're coming to stillness. And I think that that's going to be relevant somehow. So I'm just going to put a pin in that for now, and we're going to talk about the rest of what's going on. So this eclipse is part of a kite, and the bottom part of a kite is a grand trine. So grand trines tend to bring out some kind of blessing or opportunity. And so I asked Spirit, what is the opportunity for you here? Because we have an 8th house eclipse trining Pluto in your 1st house, and then Uranus in your 5th. So one of the cards, or the cards that I got for that, was the Judgment card in reverse. So one of the things that I think could be happening for you as a result of this entire eclipse cycle is leaving behind negative associations with yourself. I don't know, I just like unburdening yourself of negative or challenging emotions. It does mean that those could come up. You know, this is a 6-month duration, so they might come up more and then you let them go. I don't know what the timeline is for you guys personally, but I see that within the 6-month period, you're going to be able to let go of a lot of like negativity and baggage. If you have been going through a period of like uncertainty or indecisiveness, or if things have been, like I talk about the idle place, if things have been idle or in a limbo, if they haven't made themselves clear on how they are going to ground in reality, maybe you're kind of trying to decide between two paths, or you're waiting on the okay for something or news on something, or you just lack clarity with like the next steps of something. I can see that this Judgment card in reverse speaks to that and the discomfort around that stillness and the liminal phase of transition and transformation. And so I can see that this eclipse is going to bring those things up for you, but I think it could also resolve that, because I asked, what's the blessing here? So I think the blessing is having maybe some clarity come to you, or things resolve themselves and the path materialize. But it might take that 6-month cycle. So it might not immediately appear, but usually there is some initial understanding or initial blessing, and then over the next 6 months things like solidify. So that's one thing. So if you guys are in like a period of transition as a person, transitioning careers or transitioning into different phases of life, or you want to go down some other unknown path, I could see that this eclipse can bring more clarity to you. The other element of this eclipse is that it's opposite Saturn and Neptune in your second. So, well, at least Saturn's in your second. But this eclipse, so we're kind of pulled in two different directions. Do we want to move towards the 8th house where the eclipse is, or towards Saturn, which is opposite it in the second house? And I got the High Priestess for you. So to me, this speaks to more of an 8th house focus for you guys, where, you know, what you're meant to focus on is the unknown, or like trusting your third eye sight in the unknown, because the 8th house is really psychic. It has this like inner sight to it. And I also got the Crow for you, which is a very psychic animal. So I just feel like you guys are having certain things in your life die off and transform and change. But I do think that the idol place stood out to me because there's going to be a period of transition or limbo or uncertainty that you're going to need to use your intuition for. With the Crow card, you're going to need to trust your own instincts around what's the next step for you. Even if that next step is on a path that's foggy and you can't see far ahead, your gut is telling you to go that way, so you go that way. So the Crow is a very intelligent animal. And I think the more that you lean into the intelligence of your intuition and knowing things that you can't fully see or prove, you will be able to get a sense of bearing in this like in between liminal disorienting phase of life. This could also speak to being able to again, kind of get rid of some judgments or some negative feelings that you have towards yourself or your path or your relationship with yourself or your body. I could see you guys going through a period of metamorphosis and change and releasing some of those shackles of that as well. And the Crow being almost like a purifier. The Crow feels very significant. I am like curious because like, yeah, murder of crows would be multiple crows. And the 8th house is the house of death and rebirth. So I think some part of you is literally dying off. And I think that that's because of this eclipse trining Pluto in your first house. And Pluto is a planet of death and rebirth as well. So there's this process of identity change that I see you guys going through. And yeah, I don't think you've quite landed on who you're going to be at the end of this, but that's going to come as a result of the trusting yourself and just the time of this full eclipse taking place over the next 6 months. Okay, my other question that I asked is, what do you need to release? Like, what tension do you need to release? Because we have Mars in Libra, and Mars is a planet where we're usually feeling like we have strong desires, we have strong motivation, we have maybe anger or frustration or boundaries, and all of that's expressed in a really assertive, direct way. But this Mars is really bogged down. It's insecure. It's going through a lot of issues. Mars is squaring that Pluto in the first, so you might feel at times like you're kind of losing perspective with things. And so what you need to release that tension of, like maybe building frustration, for example, of not expressing anger, or building frustration with the self of not taking action on things that you want. What you need to do to kind of get rid of that buildup of energy internally is the King of Swords, which is a card of intellect. So your Mars is in the 9th house. So I think that there's something here around needing to have something to like orient yourself to. So the 9th house can deal a lot with philosophy, morals, integrities, value systems, like our honesty, our ethical alignment. So there's something in regards to that I think needs to be part of your compass. You might notice that there are certain things that are unfair in your life with Mars and Libra in the 9th house, and or imbalanced, an injustice, and that could really get you kind of revved up. And with the King of Swords, the way to release this tension within you is to just, you live according to your values, your integrity, and other people might not, and that could be frustrating, and how that affects you and affects everyone. But the best thing that you can do in this situation is to continue to uphold your moral integrity in the situation, your sense of fairness, your sense of justice and rightness. And then also to use your logic, to use your intellect to kind of argue your case or support your way of thinking, and kind of talk things out, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I could see maybe there being some type of unfair situation that you need to hold your integrity with, and you might still feel frustrated by others, but you'll come out of it at the end happy with how you held yourself during that time. So that is what I'm saying for you, Aquarius. I hope that resonates. If it does, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but never least, we have Pisces rising and sun. So this Virgo solar eclipse on September 21st is taking place in your 7th house of partnerships and contracts. And this is a very fated, very dynamic and complex eclipse, because there's a lot of aspects taking place. I will say a lot of the aspects are pointing in the direction of relationships becoming fucked or complicated or breaking down or having issues. And you are having an eclipse in your 7th house of relationships. So there is likely going to be some tests in that regard, or some issues that arise in your relationships or contracts with other people. This could be any kind of relationship. I say that because Venus is squaring Uranus, and that leads to sudden change and erratic behavior in people. And we have Mars at 29 Libra, a sign it's dysfunctional in, and also Venus is dysfunctional in Virgo. And Mars is squaring Pluto. Mars is in your 8th, squaring Pluto in your 12th, and it's opposite Chiron in your 2nd, so it can bring up a lot of painful memories and issues and power struggles with people, and fears of abandonment, fear of loss, like all these kinds of things can come up. So if you start to feel really complicated feelings around this eclipse and people in your life, just know that that's really normal. And a lot of people are going through that right now, but you guys especially might be going through some of that. Okay, so I want to focus more on the cards, because I pulled some cards related to specific questions that I asked based off of the astrology. So there is a kite in this full moon. A kite is a fated aspect pattern, and one of the main parts of the kite is a grand trine. And a grand trine represents some kind of opportunity or talent or blessing that can come to us when it's in a transit chart like this. So your grand trine is between the eclipse in the 7th house, so Sun and Moon 7th, trining Pluto in the 12th, and Uranus in the 4th. So I asked Spirit and the cards, like, what's the blessing that you're going to get from that trine between these planets? And I got the Justice card and the Journey card. So one of the things that I think is going to come for you is there is going to be a journey to a more balanced and fair kind of life. So if you've had relationship issues with people or things where things have felt stagnant, or they have felt unfair, or they have felt just not like growing, not giving you peace, if they've taken from you, I can see changes in your life, in your relationships, in your reality, so that you feel both a sense of peace and balance and like harmony within yourself, and a sense of adventure, a sense of growth. I think that comes a lot with having Uranus in the fourth. There can be really dynamic changes to the family, to where you live, over the course of Uranus's time here. Doesn't have to happen right now, but I see you going on like a journey towards inner peace, a journey towards balance, a journey towards harmony, and finding a sense of justice. So if things have been unfair in relationships, kind of fighting for what is yours, or fighting for equality, or fighting for that fairness that you deserve, and going on the journey, the long journey to get that. So it might not be an immediate yes or no kind of thing, or an immediate result, but I can see some type of evolution, and again, journey and adventure to go find that sense of balance and equality. So that is what I see, is like a stabilization, but it might take some time. I also pulled the starfish card, and this is a card that speaks about regeneration, because starfish can regrow their limbs, and not a lot of animals can do that. So there's something about you guys that I think you're going to go through a process of healing, renewal, regeneration, that things that were once ruined, or things that were once cut off, or relationships that were broken, or opportunities that were lost, or hearts that were hurt, I see them regenerating, regrowing, and becoming stronger and more peaceful. So if you're going through some kind of issue, this is a path of healing, and coming back stronger than before. Again, this is an eclipse that takes 6 months. So I don't think that this is immediate, but I do see stabilization coming for you emotionally over these next 6 months. Being able to make peace with letting things go too. My next card that I asked, or my next question that I asked, is what tension do you need to let go of? Because Mars is in Libra in your 8th house, and Mars is so dysfunctional. It's holding all of its negative feelings in, and it's building resentment and building frustration. So what do you need to let go of? And I got the Fool and the Star card in reverse. So what is the situation that causes you to kind of cramp up emotionally, become emotionally constipated, basically? And I got, again, the Fool and the Star in reverse. So there is some new beginning here for you guys, some kind of process of death and rebirth, because Mars is in the 8th, where there's usually some type of letting something go. There's something that's trying to leave your life so that you can start fresh, but you are not feeling that hopeful about it with the Star in reverse. And I think that what you need to let go of is this perspective. So, the thing that's creating friction in your life is maybe resistance to a new beginning, because of the fear that it's not going to be better, or because of the lack of hope that things can work out. So it's important to confront that, obviously, but I think that this new beginning is inevitable. This fresh start is inevitable. So embracing it with optimism, not delusion, because that's a Pisces quality, but optimism, I think, is going to be the safest bet for you to feel at peace with yourself. But of course, this eclipse is opposite Saturn in your first, so you still want to be realistic, be grounded, do the things in the material world that you need to do. And you could kind of feel pulled back and forth between, do I want to go this way or that type of thing. And I see that here with the Lovers and then the Judgment in reverse. I feel like you guys are kind of at a crossroads, and your focus right now is on needing to just commit to a decision. Not being indecisive, not flipping back and forth between both sides, and seeing the merit on both sides, and doubting yourself, and like, oh, I made this decision, then I doubt myself, and then I go back to the other side. So I'm seeing this like wavering energy and feeling really uncertain, and what you need to focus on at this eclipse is just committing to a decision And if it's ending a relationship, because some of you guys might be in that scenario, a relationship with a job, a contract that you have with someone, a commitment that you have with someone, a marriage that you have with someone, a living situation with someone, if you're ending some commitment like that with another institution or person, you really need to decide at this eclipse and stick with it. And this Saturn opposition to the eclipse is going to indicate the permanency of that decision, that it's not something that you're going to be able to go back on. It could also indicate that it is a lengthier process, or that it doesn't just immediately leave your life. There could be some emotional residue or some financial or practical matters that you need to clean up, but there is a sense of you can sever this. It might take a little bit of time, but it's a permanent decision, and you need to commit to that decision at this eclipse and be hopeful about the new leaf you're turning over, because there is a lot of peace coming to you, and a lot of renewal and regeneration coming to you at the end of this journey, but it is going to take some time to get there because it is a journey. So that's pretty much your message, but I do just, I didn't do this for any of the other groups, but I do kind of want to see if Spirit just has anything else that they want to share, that Spirit wants to share with you. So anything else for my Pisces? Any other messages that I'm not really communicating to them, or that they need to know? Because there's so much about the chart that I could go through, but it's just too much, watch the overview. That was 37 minutes long. It was already too long. Okay. So anything else for... Okay, so we got 3 cards here. The 5 of Wands in reverse, the Knight of Cups, and then the Magician card. So the 5 of Wands in reverse is a card of somebody just, they don't want to be engaging in relationships and dynamics and commitments with people that are toxic or tumultuous or stress you out or feel really competitive in the workplace, or it's like pay attention to the quality of your energy. If you're noticing that you're getting revved up about something, or you're feeling anxious or overstimulated every time you're thinking about something that you've committed yourself to, or a relationship that you have going on, this is a sign that you're living out of your natural energy, out of alignment with your natural energy. As a Pisces are yin, they are water. So they're feminine sign, they're the water element, and then they're mutable. So that they're very responsive to their environment. So the people around you are going to cultivate your inner world in a large degree. Especially, you're going to notice this at this eclipse being in your relationship house. So it's so important as a Pisces to, like water, you're going to take on like a shape of the environment that you're in. So if you're in a toxic work environment, toxic marriage, toxic dynamic with friends, you are going to collapse under the weight of that environment, and it's going to embed itself into you. And your natural energy is the Knight of Cups and the Magician. Not somebody who's competitive, who's fighting to be heard, who's having to kind of like push back on people and be, antagonistic or go through the drama or whatever. That's not a Pisces. A Pisces is very calm, very creative, very inspired. This is the master manifestors. These are the poets. These are the sensitive mystics. And you guys need the right environment to protect that essence. And so I think that the message here is, if you're feeling like you're having to fight, or you're super anxious in the environment that you're in or the relationship that you're in, it's time to put down the gloves and just come back to your natural sense of peace. That's what I was getting, is like, you guys are really peaceful and really balanced people, but I think that what you're currently engaged in is throwing you out of that alignment completely. And I do think that people get ill when they stay in environments like that. And what this is saying is that you can regenerate, you can heal yourself, renew yourself, but you have to remove yourself from the environment in order to do that. So there is going to be a necessary decision here, and hopefully this eclipse will help you make it. So that's what I see for you, Pisces. Please do comment down below if this resonates. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day.